So since the first day I stepped into a Minecraft world, I have been terrified of the Nether. If it wasn't for the absolutely amazing loot that you can find in there, including some necessities like blaze rods, I would never ever go in there. But despite how scary it is, it's a fantastic looking section of the Minecraft game. And especially with the new biomes they've added in the last couple of years, including the Warp Forest, the Crimson Forest, and much more. It really is a good looking biome. And for that reason today I'm going to be recreating it in Lego form with a little chunk for each section of the Nether biome. This should be a fun one, but it's going to be a challenge. We're going to try and keep everything to exact cubular blocks, making everything as accurate as we can to the game. So with that being said, let's get started. So I decided each biome would be on a 16 by 16 platform. So the first thing I did was lay out a small outline for each one and then filled in the center sections, making sure this was all nice and square. Then I went ahead and put these Technic bricks in each corner so I could connect each piece together, and then added bricks all around the outside to make it nice and sturdy, and raised up the entire center section with filler brick as well. Now with that being done, it's time to move on to the second piece. I'm going to go ahead and make all of these different sections, and then we'll go ahead and start decorating them and things like that. So the first thing, of course, is to add the dark red along the front. So this will be the only side you see, so you'll actually see dark red. You won't see any of these nice colourful bricks in the inside. Those are just for filler. Now with 2 modules done, it's time to go ahead and repeat this 4 more times and create the other section. And boom, there is all 6 of the different base plates. You can see they actually separate. They're just sort of plugged together with Technic pins. We kind of have a mob representing each biome, so let's see if you guys can guess what biomes we're actually going to be recreating here. So obviously we have the Hoglin, then we have some Piglins, we have the Strider, then we have this with the skeleton, and then we're going to get an Enderman in here, but I haven't got my Enderman yet. And then over here we have the skeleton. So can you guys guess what we're going to be building? As each biome changes to the other, we have kind of like an overlap, so you can see the actual split is in the middle there, but I sort of laid this out so you can see. But we're going to start and go from left to right. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing I did was lay out where I wanted the sort of different raised bits of terrain to go. So I went ahead and mapped this out using some dark red plates, and I did this across the first 2 modules. It's time to raise this up and add some bricks on top of this and get the first layer ready. Now I couldn't help myself and was already excited to start tiling, so I went ahead and started to work on the Crimson Forest by adding in a few tiles and plates here to add some different details, and I slowly faded these into the dark red for the netherrack. And then again, using random filler bricks, we raised up the center as well to make everything on the second level be completely flat and flush, and started to work on where the second sort of back area of the netherrack would go. Finishing off the raised section of the back, I added some tiles to the front in the gaps that I'd missed before. Then I started to work on the second module, again raising up the center, mapping out which areas were going to be actually exposed and doing those in dark red, and then any other area I could do in pretty much whatever color I wanted. This first orange piece represents the start of our first lava lake, so what I did here was just raise up a section so it was 1 plate lower than all of the netherrack around the outside, and added in some different trans orange and orange plates and tiles to add a nice bubbling lava effect. I wanted the lava flowing into the lava lake, so we had some netherrack built up around it, and then added the lava flow as if it was flowing down into the lava lake. At this point I wanted to start working onto the next module. I don't know whether you guys will be able to guess what the next module is going to be from this section here, but we got started on it nonetheless, and even added a few small pools of lava as well between different areas of the blocks. Going back over to the other side, I wanted to add a bit more detail to the raised section, so I added in some gold ore into the netherrack, and I think this was a nice touch, adding some more detail just using some gold 1x1 studs. I also added a couple of those awesome flame pieces, and I think were perfect for the model. And that is the first module done. I severely underestimated how many red plates I had, or red tiles. So yeah, the Crimson Forest ended up being kind of small, but I guess it looks pretty good nonetheless. Obviously we still got to add the tree in. We'll be working on that a bit later on. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. We have a bit of sort of a gold up there on the wall, a bit of an overhang, nothing too crazy here. Again, I thought I had more dark red bricks than I do, so I'm kind of going as limited as I can for these first couple sections, and then obviously because we still have 2 big sections with dark red bricks left to go. We have a little lava fall over here running into the lava. I wanted to make the lava look a little bit cool with a few different sort of like trans orange and orange pieces there. So yeah, can you guys guess what biome is going to be next? We have dark grey. What could that possibly be? Yes, it is the Basalt Delta, probably my least favorite part of the nether. Yeah, we're going to see how we tackle this. I might be swapping a few of these pieces over if I choose different sort of textures and stuff for different pieces, and yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. So let's get started. So now onto the second module. Of course, the Basalt Delta is going to be mainly dark bluish grey, as well as adding in a big lava lake in the section here. Now I don't know why I got this perfect and then I thought I was wrong, so I ripped out the entire section, and you'll see me kind of going back in and changing this at one point. But yeah, we managed to get it perfect in the end, and had it all in set by 1 plate thick, so it was kind of lower than the regular level of the basalt and everything else. I also added in a few pools, as I mentioned before, in between the different spikes of basalt, and I think this is a really nice touch. Those little pools always catch me out in the game. The front section was mainly going to be lower than the back section, and I wanted it raising up as it got towards the back, and I really liked the way I mixed in the black as well. I think this was really nice details, and we have a few different pools in between each section. This was probably the most fun section to build so far, and it actually was kind of tricky, again keeping to the scale. This was definitely something that I always had to keep reminding myself of as I built these these sections. Okay, and with the Basalt Delta complete, or I guess almost complete, we still got to do a small slither in here. We are now halfway through. We have 3 out of the 6 modules completely finished. We're halfway through completing the nether right here. So yeah, you can see we have the strider on a bit of lava, some different sort of details in there, and I'm really happy with this. And we're now going to start working on the sort of slither of that, and then we're going to move into a bit of nether wastes, and then into the warped forest, and then a little bit more nether wastes, and then into the Soul Sand Valley. So we've got a lot more fun stuff to do. Now, before we get any other progress done, we do in fact have another package to open with some cool pieces for the mod. Obviously, we have a load of teal color bricks for the warped forest, including some amazing tiles. These were super expensive, but yeah, we managed to find a load of them on one of the stores, and yeah, definitely paid more than I would have wanted to. We also got some trans purple for the nether portal, and then we have some studs in here that I'm probably going to use to mix up the obsidian. So now with those pieces in the collection, we can start working on the section where the Basalt Delta runs into the next bit of nether waste, and also start to work on the very next biome, which is going to be pretty awesome. This is probably one of my favorite biomes in the entire nether, purely because of the color, and that is of course the warped forest. You can guess by that beautiful dark turquoise color. Now this color is actually super expensive in Lego. I bought a ton of those tiles as you saw earlier, but I'd love to have at least triple of these, but sadly that is not the case, and we managed to sort of raise up some areas around it, and we have a double sort of layered section, including a couple of open gaps again for a couple of trees that we're going to come back in and add. Now I started to work on some more nether wastes, including this giant raised up section on the back here. I kind of was getting more comfortable with using random pieces and making the most of every dark red piece I have, so I decided to do a slightly larger section at the back here, including some nice little areas of nether quartz and also some gold down by the front. With that done, we're going to move back to the crimson forest, and we're going to add in our first tree trunk. Now this is made up of just red bricks with a couple of dark red mixed in there as well. And now onto the warp forest, we also have a tree trunk here as well as a flame piece as well to add in. So you can see this one is just made with dark turquoise with a couple of dark red pieces in here. I also added a few finishing touches. Now with that last nether waste piece done, it's time to move on to the final section, which is going to be the Soul Sand Valley. Now I actually kind of forgot how to do maths here and simple addition, and I actually made this slightly longer than all the other modules, but I think it's actually going to turn out well because it gives us more space to work with. The dark brown tiles are super nice and I really enjoyed working with them. Again, it was a cool color that I've never really worked with before, and I had fun merging it nicely into the dark red. Again, I went through and mapped out where I want the different levels of terrain to be. Of course, it's quite a high jump between each level when you're first mapping it out, so it does look a little bit weird. And one thing I wanted to include in here was a nether portal on this far side, so we could have Steve or whoever it was coming through the portal ready to fight all of the different mobs he's going to encounter in the nether. And I wanted to build up a bit of netherrack behind it to sit behind the portal as if it's sort of spawned right into the actual landscape, and I think this turned out well. And again, I tiled off the top section, making it look nice and finished. Now this really did use most of my dark red pieces, so I definitely didn't have many left after this, but after this I went ahead and finished off the dark brown with the soul sand, and I went ahead and added these 2 small bone blocks as well, which I think turned out really nicely. Now there's one thing that's missing from this beautiful slither of warped forest, and that is of course the top of the tree. I said we'd return to it, and here we are. Now I've got to say this is probably the least game accurate thing I made. I was very low on the sort of tiles, the 2x2 tiles, the 2x2 bricks and stuff like that, so I decided to go with a cool, more artsy look of this top section of this warped forest, and I think it represents the whole forest quite nicely. And I do think, whilst it's not accurate at all to the game, I think it still looks fantastic, and I'm really glad with the way it turned out. And I think overall it was good to take these creative liberties, and I'm glad with the way I did it. There's also the wither skeleton still stood in there, still taking the place of the enderman, which hopefully will be arriving in the mail before I finish this whole video off. The same thing could be said for the crimson forest. Now I went ahead and created a nice top section of the tree for this as well, and again, it's not exactly game accurate, but I think it still looks really nice, and I tried to keep it relatively similar to what we see in the game with that sort of pyramid shape, but I managed to add in a few more details in here, and I definitely don't think this is accurate, but I like the way it turned out nonetheless, and I think overall it does a good job for the different forest techniques. Perhaps one day I'll come back in and make these both look more accurate. And boom, with that my nether build is 100% complete. How do you guys think it looks? I'm really happy with the different things. We're going to go through a couple of the different details that I haven't really touched on in full detail yet. So starting from this side, you can hop through the portal right there, which will actually lead us to another video that I just made on my channel. So if you want to go check that one out, I'll leave a link up in the top corner where we recreated the overworld in one chunk. But yeah, you can see a couple of skeletons are waiting to ambush you here with a couple of enchanted sort of bows and an enchanted helmet with this guy right here. So they might have some good loot if you manage to kill them. We have some bone blocks sticking out of the ground in the Soul Sand Valley. I really like the way this looks, and we even have the flaming blue piece over there in the back. That leads us into another waste biome where we have a couple of piglins, one with a crossbow and one with a regular sword. I think I'll definitely do some trading with these guys to get some cool loot. But behind them we have a big wall of netherrack, which the nether portal is inset into. I really like the quartz that are jutting out to the side there. Definitely going to use that to get my XP levels up. And we have a bit of gold down here at the front, but don't mind this when those guys are looking. Next we have the warp forest. Kind of imagine this guy is the enderman. He didn't arrive in time, sadly, but yeah, it looks pretty good nonetheless, and I think I'm really happy with the way this biome turned out. We have a couple of different details. These are little plants that we see on the floor. I kind of recreated them with a clip and a bone. I think they look pretty accurate. And then we have these little toadstool sort of things and this sort of plant piece right here. We also have some fire as well as a magma cube in the corner there as well. He's kind of coming over from this biome right here. You can see Steve is running for his life. He only has a stone sword right now. He definitely wasn't equipped against the nether. He probably got about this far and then decided to head straight back for his portal. I really like the warp forest. I wish I had more of those tiles, but I'm really glad I managed to recreate this small section. And we have this big tree in the back here, which I'm really happy with. Next up, we have this Basalt Delta. I really like the different pools of lava. You can see there's quite a few in there. There's one all the way at the back there. There's one in the corner here, one there, and then a big one at the front. And these are really cool and they look really good jutting out of these giant pillars of basalt that we can see here. We've even got some gold in there as well, which looks pretty cool. I mean, the Strider is definitely enjoying his time in the lava right there. We have a player up on his elytra right there, soaring through the nether. That's definitely a good way to avoid all of the dangerous mobs in here, and I'm really glad I've included that up there. Next to the Basal Delta, we have the second from last biome, which is another regular nether waste. I really like the different details I got in here. We have a couple more piglins and a piglin brute there. Some more nether gold in the back there, as well as a blaze coming from a distant fortress somewhere. That's something I really wish I could have included, a fortress and a bastion, but sadly we don't have space for that, so maybe that'll be another video if you guys would like to see that. And finally, we have the crimson forest over here in the corner. We have a couple more plants on the floor, as well as a nice tree again in this section here. And then we have the horribly miscolored hoglin in the back. Let me know what your favorite biome from this entire mock was, guys. I really enjoyed building this. I had a ton of fun. I really did take a lot of time to build this, so I'm really happy with the outcome. I think the sections that could have done with some improvement was maybe a bit more of a wall here in the back, similar to what I did over here, because that definitely looks a bit more fleshed out. But sadly I didn't have a crazy amount of dark red, and I did want to save stuff just in case I didn't have enough for later in the build. So yeah, really happy with this. Let me know if you'd like to see some more Minecraft builds like this. I'm really glad I managed to stick to the sort of pattern and the size and the scale that we went with. I think it turned out really nicely, and overall it's really fun to build in this scale. It does make it slightly harder, but I definitely enjoyed it. So I definitely want to order some more bricks and do some more Minecraft builds in the near future. So if you have any ideas, let me know in the comment section down below, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.